By normal quarterback standards, Patrick Mahomes had a bad game last week, threw 3 interceptions versus the Dolphins. Had like 2 interceptions the entire season prior to last week. Thing is, Mahomes and the Chiefs are so good, they still scored 33 points and won the game. This week, Chiefs visit the Saints. KC trying to hold on to the #1 seed in the AFC, while New Orleans trying to clinch the NFC South. Drew Brees is recovering from 11 broken ribs and a punctured lung. He's been designated to return to practice, but head coach Sean Payton said Brees still has, quote, a ways to go. Now, the Chiefs are 21-1, including postseason play since Week 11 of 2019. But they haven't been the only ones on a tear, as New Orleans is 16-5 over that span, tied for the second-best win percentage in the NFL. Since Week 11 of 2019, they are the 2 highest-scoring teams in the National Football League. Time now to put some knowledge in your mind and money in your pocket. For that, welcome in CBS Sports HQ senior NFL analyst Pete Prisco and Vegas insider Todd Fuhrman. Chiefs are 3-point road favorites against the Saints on Sunday, a game you can see on CBS. The total's 51 and a hook. KC riding an 8-game win streak straight up, but the Chiefs are 0-5 against the spread in their past 5 games. You only have to lay 3 with the reigning Super Bowl champs. Pete, is that the right side to be on?
I think it is. And look, playing back-to-back road games outside the division is always tough, but this is a good team, so they'll be focused. That's one of the problems with the Chiefs this year, when they kind of wane and their interest gets away from them a little bit. I think they kind of play down to their competition. That won't happen here. And this is another pick against Taysom Hill. I'm not a big believer in him. Everybody raves about the way he's played. They don't score a lot of points when he's in the game. The Chiefs will score a lot of points on that fast track. I can't wait to watch it. I'll take the Chiefs minus the points.
You know, what's interesting about this game, guys, is there was movement earlier in the week at William Hill. We saw the Chiefs open as a 4-point favorite. Number trended down to 3 amid speculation that Drew Brees was going to be cleared for this game. And I really believe professional bettors are operating under the assumption that he's going to be the starting quarterback come Sunday, despite what Sean Payton has said. Of course, we'll see how this number fluctuates. Ultimately, if it's Taysom Hill, I think there's a little bit more value created in New Orleans as a dog of 4 or more. When you look at this Saints team over the last 2 seasons, they were undefeated going into last Sunday's game against Philadelphia when playing without Drew Brees. The defense was absolutely embarrassed in the first half against Jalen Hurts. They gave up more than 300 yards, and they only amassed 92 yards of total offense. I actually think a healthy Taysom Hill is more of a matchup nightmare here for Kansas City, given the fact that Kansas City's Achilles heel defensively is stopping the run. It'll force the Saints to play a little bit of clock control, lean on the defense that's extremely underrated amid its resurgence. And when I look at New Orleans as an underdog, 8-1 against the spread, the last 9 times they've caught points. This is a game I'll wait for a quarterback announcement. With Drew Brees at 3, want no part of it. With Taysom Hill at 4 or better, pencil me in for a bet on the Saints as a live home pup.
Todd, you mentioned the Saints coming off an upset loss to rookie Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. The 2019 Heisman runner-up will make his second career start on Sunday against fellow Oklahoma product 2018 Heisman winner Kyler Murray. Arizona hanging on to the final playoff spot in the NFC. Cardinals are 6.5-point home favorites. The total's 49. Pete, does Jalen Hurts roll into Glendale and help the Eagles pull off another upset?
You know, I watched this tape today, and I was impressed with what he did. He did some really good things. But again, now there's tape on him. The Cardinals can plan for him. They can game plan for him, which is entirely different. There wasn't a lot of tape on him going into last week. I think the Cardinals' defense was dominant last week. You saw him get all over Daniel Jones. They sacked him 8 times. And I know Hurts can move around a little bit, but the line in front of him isn't very good. I think this rush will be a problem for him, even with his mobility. And on the other side, I think Kyler Murray kind of got the offense back on track a little bit. I think he'll be able to score some points against an Eagles defense that isn't that good. So I'll take the Cardinals minus the points. It's a bloated number a little bit for me, but I'm still going to lay the points.
And this is a game, guys, where I'm going to abstain from taking a side and just bet it over the total in the high 40s. Pete talked about having a little bit of film on Jalen Hurts, but I'm not quite sure Philadelphia had to expose their entire playbook last week because they built a comfortable lead at the half and then held on for dear life late in that contest. Meanwhile, Arizona defensively, yes, the numbers look great, but Daniel Jones was operating on one leg. He was more or less a statue in the pocket, and not being able to lean on his legs to escape pressure made him a sitting duck, and Arizona got healthy on that side. I do think watching Kyler Murray, though, he's through the worst of that shoulder injury, whether it's an AC joint or something else that slowed him down. ultimately he's going to have success against the Philadelphia defense that, in my opinion, will probably be down a few key cogs. Those guys were dropping like flies last week, and asking these two teams to combine for 48.5 or more points, I don't think it's that big a reach whatsoever. I like this game over the total on Sunday.
And for whatever it's worth, Arizona has gone over their total in 4 straight home games, 66 total points per game. So a play on the over there certainly in play. We've got a potential playoff preview between Seattle and Washington. The football team is the 4th seed in the NFC at 6-7, while the Seahawks are the 5 seed at 9-4. If that holds, these teams will meet again 3 weeks later in the same place in the wild card round. Washington has the longest active winning streak in the NFC, 4 straight, but quarterback Alex Smith dealing with a calf strain didn't practice on Wednesday, so we might see Dwayne Haskins come Sunday. Russell Wilson and company coming off a get-right game against the Jets, 5.5-point road favorites. The total's 44 and a hook. And you might want to consider a trend here as well. The under is hit in the Seahawks' last 5 games. Todd, 44.5 is low. You feel like sweating that out?
I don't even think it's going to be that big a sweat, to be honest, Hakeem. The only thing that would concern me about this total is when Dwayne Haskins starts, how many short fields does he ultimately create for the Seahawks? Because when you look at Seattle, they've gone back to the DNA that they know and love, even to their own detriment sometimes. And with a healthy running back core that's establishing the ground game, only letting Russell Wilson throw when absolutely necessary. Plus, it coincides with the Seattle defense that's getting significantly healthier when it matters most. Quentin Dunbar, I think, will be back in the fold, a little bit of homecoming of sorts for him playing against his old team. Shaq Griffin has helped stabilize that secondary, and they're getting a pass rush from Carlos Dunlap. When you mention Alex Smith missing practice on Wednesday, I think he's a long shot to play. I mean, this is a quarterback that's dealt with a number of surgeries on his lower body. A calf strain for him different than a healthy, young, vibrant quarterback who's just a little bit nicked up at this time of the year. And I also have some concerns about Washington's skill position players. Terry McLaurin hasn't looked himself over the last couple of games, only 4 catches. Antonio Gibson not going to be available either. I think this is a defense-first type football game, somewhere in the ballpark of 24-13. Lean Seattle, but like the under.
Pete, there's another trend. Washington has won and covered 4 straight games. Did they make it 5 straight? What's your lean here?
Well, I really liked it if Alex Smith would play. And again, there's uncertainty whether he will or not. But I think this is a game like the Giants got Seattle a couple weeks ago. Remember, they beat them at Seattle with Colt McCoy. That's something that you don't expect to happen. And how did they do it? They got after Russell Wilson. They totally shut him down in that game. The pass rush was outstanding. His eye level came down. He wasn't looking down the field trying to make the big plays. And I think in that scenario, it was all about the defensive front. In this game, it will all be about the defensive front. That Washington football team front is outstanding. Everybody can rush the passer. The interior guys are good. That's going to be a problem for Wilson. I really like this game if Alex Smith plays. I think the Washington football team will win the game if he plays. If he doesn't, I'm still going to take the points. I think it's a low-scoring game like Todd said, but I'll take the points in Washington.
Keep your eye on that, on Alex Smith's status throughout the rest of the week. Sunday night game features the Browns and Giants. Cleveland coming off a close loss on Monday night to the Ravens. With a Browns win, they would clinch their first 10-win season since 2007. Meantime, Giants quarterback Daniel Jones has a second leg injury. If he's out, former Browns quarterback Colt McCoy would start from New York. Browns are 5-point favorites. The total's 44.5. Todd, you feel like playing another 44.5-point under?
I do indeed, and I think this number is actually a touch inflated given the Cleveland offensive outburst that we saw on Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. When I look at the Giants defense, they're actually better right now than Baltimore in its current construct. They can make you a little bit one-dimensional. And the Giants last weekend spent a ton of time on the field trying to slow down Kyler Murray and company. Meanwhile, you talked about the quarterback situation. And if the Giants have Colt McCoy, I don't expect him to throw it all over. I think they lean on Wayne Gallman and try and get that ground game going. If Daniel Jones is out there, the last thing you want to do with him, if he's at all limited mobility-wise, is make him a sitting duck for Myles Garrett to come after him from start to finish. This feels like a good old defensive slugfest, a lot at stake for both teams in their respective conference. We're talking about a primetime under. No fear for me here. Wait till this total hits 45. Bet it under. I think we're talking about the first team to 24 that wins this football game.
Pete, you're back in my Cleveland Browns, right?
No, I'm not, actually. And this game reminds me of a couple of weeks ago. Remember what the Kansas City Chiefs and Raiders played to, and then the Raiders had to go out and go on the road and play Atlanta. and they were terrible. They put so much into that division game, played them close, almost won it, and then were awful the next week. I think that scenario will play out here. I think the Browns put so much into beating the Ravens. They're on a short week, and now they got to go back out on the road. I like the Giants, and I agree with Todd. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, but I think that favors the Giants. I will take the Giants to win this game outright.
All right, we'll see about that. All right, Giants one game out of the lead in the NFC East. Meantime, we've got an NFC North matchup in Minnesota between the Vikings and Bears, both on the outside looking in at the playoff picture. Mitchell Trubisky, Cleveland native, by the way, coming off his first win since being renamed the starter in Week 12 for the Bears. Hit his 5th career 3-touchdown, no interception game in Week 14 against the Texans. This week, Minnesota is a short 3-point favorite. The total's 47. Pete, who do you like in this spot?
I'm going to go with the Bears, and I think Mitchell Trubisky's played some good football since coming back. You look at what he's done, and he's an entirely different quarterback. At least he looks that way. He's much more confident. The defense hasn't been as good, but I think that could be a problem. Won't be a problem here because I think they'll slow the run game of the Vikings. They'll slow Dalvin Cook, and if you do that, you know what that does? That puts it all on Kirk Cousins. And anytime you play the Vikings, that's a good thing. So I think the Bears are the better team right now. I do think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, but I think the Bears will find a way to win this game. Mitch Trubisky on a little bit of a run.
You know, Pete, you mentioned a lot of points being scored, and I think that's the angle I want to attack in this contest. And I'll go over the total at 47. I know it opened a shade lower at 46. What's interesting about the side is a look-ahead number here made the Vikings a 6.5-point favorite, but very different results last weekend. And lo and behold, here we are sitting right around a field goal. The biggest question I have for the Vikings is, will they kick extra points? Will they kick field goals? And how will they rectify a special team situation that really haunted them last week in a game that should have been much closer than the final score indicated against the Bucs? I look at this Bears defense, and there's no doubt that they finally showed a little bit more teeth than what we'd seen recently last weekend against the Houston Texans. But I think Mitchell Trubisky gives them a more dynamic offense. David Montgomery and Allen Robinson playing with some confidence. And I know the first meeting between these two teams set offensive football back nearly 100 years. I don't think that'll be the same case at US Bank. Faster track, indoors, I like it over the total.
Todd, Pete, great stuff. And how's this for a tasty morsel? Minnesota overs are 6-0-1 at home this season. There you go. Split on KC and New Orleans. Perhaps some correlated parlays here. Arizona and the over, Washington the under, Giants in the under. I'm going to say Browns in the over, but that's just me. I'm not the expert. I'm just the host. I'm just teeing the guys up. But I will say that Minnesota trend is nice. Again, Minnesota over 6-0-1 at home this season. Knowledge in your mind, money in your pocket. Coming up, we've got more picks and analysis. Tom Brady has never lost to Matt Ryan and the Falcons, but should you lay 6 points with Brady and the Bucs on Sunday? We'll break it down. This is CBS Sports HQ. Back here on CBS Sports HQ, Hakeem Dermish here with you. Tom Brady has never lost to the Falcons. Perfect 6-0, including the epic comeback win in Super Bowl 51. Brady and the Bucs is going to see Matt Ryan and the Falcons twice over the next 3 weeks to close out the regular season. Right now, Tampa Bay, the 6th seed in the NFC, looking to end a 12-year playoff drought. Tom Brady has dominated the Falcons during his Hall of Fame career. In the 6 wins, he's completed nearly 69% of his passes, average over 300 yards per game. His touchdown to interception ratio, nice. 13 total touchdowns compared to 2 picks. Each of the 6 wins, of course, occurred when he was a member of the New England Patriots. Back here with CBS Sports HQ senior NFL analyst Pete Prisco and Vegas insider Todd Fuhrman. Bucs are a 6-point road favorite in Atlanta. The total's 50.5. Pete, do you trust Brady and the Buccaneers to cover the 6?
I do, and it pains me to say I do, because I traditionally would take the home dog in this scenario. That's a lot of points, but the way the Falcons are playing, and Matt Ryan was bad last week against the Chargers, picked off 3 times, just didn't look right, and I think the Bucs found something coming off their bye. They had some major questions about them as a team, particularly on the offensive side of the football, but I think the defense had also had some problems. They played much better last week. I think they'll play well here. They'll get after Matt Ryan a little bit, and teams have, and when he do that, he has problems, and he'll turn the ball over. So I'll take the Bucs minus the points, and it really does pay me to say that, because 6 points on the road is a lot.
You're right, Pete. This is a big number, and had these 2 teams played last weekend, we probably would have been talking about the Bucs under a field goal favorite. But here we are with the Bucs, a dominant win, at least on the scoreboard last weekend against the Vikings, and the Falcons blowing a touchdown lead at halftime to the Los Angeles Chargers. But I look at these divisional games, and the Falcons have become the kings of the last couple of years of playing out the stretch and being extremely competitive at home. This just feels like too big a number for me, even with some concerns about the Falcons' overall health, whether it be on the offensive line, Julio Jones' availability. For Tampa, we know that Ronald Jones appears to be a bit of a long shot to play. Leonard Fournette, a healthy scratch last week, and a weird storyline that's brewing there. I think Tampa will have success moving the ball, but I think Matt Ryan bounces back. He was extremely disappointed at how he performed in the final couple minutes against the Chargers. Look for him to get Calvin Ridley involved early and often. I still don't think this Bucs team is clicking on all cylinders. Big number in the division. I'll take the home dog.
Meantime, Brady's old team visits Miami on Sunday on CBS. New England defeated Miami 21-11 in Week 1 as a 7-point favorite. A lot has happened since then. This week, Dolphins are 2-point favorites. Pete, who do you like this time around?
Well, I like the Patriots, and Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks, that record is unreal. He has dominated them in his time with the Patriots, and this is the first time he's going to get a good look at Tua Tagovailoa, and I think he's going to have a real good defensive plan to slow him down. The Dolphins are banged up. Some of those receivers are going to go. They practice. Devontae Parker, Jakeem Grant, they both practice, but they have hamstring issues, and we know how they can linger. You can get out there and think you're ready to go and pull up a quarter into the game. So I'm concerned about the weapons for the Dolphins. I'm concerned about the New England defense. I do think this will be an under. I really like the under, but my lean is to the Patriots. I think they find a way to win this game outright.
You know, Pete, we're on the same page in this particular game. I like the dog, and I like the game under the total. Actually regretting that I didn't grab 3 when it was available when the price first opened. But New England was embarrassed the last time we saw them on national TV. They had nothing to try and slow down that Rams offense, specifically Cam Akers. When you look at Miami, they don't run the ball with the same effectiveness or efficiency as the Rams. So much of what they do offensively is relying on a passing game. And Pete talked about it. The weapons are not at 100%. It's a young quarterback against the Bill Belichick defense that has extra time to prepare for this particular matchup. And for as good as Miami has been defensively so far this season, they're still a little bit vulnerable if you can run the ball up the middle. I think New England will get all of their running backs involved. It'll be a Damian Harris and Cam Newton game. And I really believe that Bill Belichick would love nothing more than to play spoiler for his former defensive coordinator, much like Miami did to New England in Week 17 last year. I'll take the Patriots plus the points. They win this game outright on the football field.
Yeah, including the postseason, Bill Belichick, 16-12 straight up, 15-13 against the spread versus his former assistants. Patriots will not win the AFC East after an NFL record 11 straight seasons. Bills can clinch the division with a Miami loss or a win over the Broncos. Buffalo visits Denver on Saturday. Josh Allen, the Bills, 6.5-point favorites. The total is 50, and Buffalo has been the cover king. covering 5 straight games, the longest active cover streak in the NFL. Pete, will the Bills continue to be a great team and cover on the road?
Yeah, and I'm a little concerned about them going out on the road with that number after putting so much into that game against the Steelers last week. They showed people that they're legitimate, and Josh Allen was phenomenal, and I think he showed people that he's a bona fide NFL star in waiting. So I do think that there's going to be some bit of a letdown. The Broncos are not that great a team. It's tough to go out there and play in the altitude. But I think the way that Bills offense is playing, they're going to score points. And on the other side, the defense had been a problem for a couple weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. They struggled. They weren't the same defense. Well, guys are getting healthier. You're seeing them play much better. You saw it against the Steelers. I think that will play here as well. So I'll take Buffalo laying the points, although there is concern about a potential letdown. Having said all that, I'd still lay the points.
This game has been interesting to watch from when this number first opened as low as Buffalo, a 4.5-point road favorite. Number ballooned out to 6.5, even touched 7 in some spots before there was a very different school of thought. Pete talked about the situation, and quite frankly, it doesn't get much worse for Buffalo, having to travel across the country on a short week in the wake of 2 primetime games against San Francisco, playing a primetime game on Sunday night against the Steelers, and another primetime game coming up a week from Monday against the New England Patriots. But this is a Denver team who doesn't have Steve Atwater walking through that door anytime soon to help out their beleaguered secondary that lost yet another cog in Duke Dawson to a torn ACL. I think Josh Allen, returning very close to where he played his college football in Laramie as a member of Wyoming, will have some success throwing, even if it's cold, as long as there's no wind. But I think Denver offensively will do some good things as well. I think this Buffalo defense definitely looks better, that they've been healthy, especially with Matt Milano anchoring their linebacking core. But both of these quarterbacks should have some success. I actually like this game over the total at 49.5. These 2 quarterbacks have a little friendly competition, good friends through the draft process. I think both of them will want to outduel one another.
Meantime, Titans trying to win the AFC South. They host the Lions this week as 11-point favorites. Tennessee's won 5 straight, 9 of the 12 all-time meetings straight up. The last time the Lions beat the Titans, they were the Houston Oilers. That was back in 1995. But, Pete, do you trust Derrick Henry and the Titans to cover a double-digit spread?
Yeah, that's a tough number. It's a big number, but again, you have an injured quarterback in Matt Stafford. Is he going to be able to go? If he does go, will he be limited? Could he get knocked out of the game? And the Lions' defense is awful. Yes, the Titans' defense is bad as well, which is why I would take the Titans and lay the points, but I really like the over in this game. I think this thing is going to go soaring over the total. The Titans' defense played much better last week against Jacksonville, but look who that was. Mike Glennon, Gardner Minshew, they're bad quarterbacks. They give up a lot of points. The Lions, we know they give up a lot of points, so I'd like the over, but I'll take the Titans minus the points in this one as well.
This is a game where I almost think it's worth exploring as one of the secondary markets and looking to try and bet the Titans team total over, because much like Pete, my lean is towards going over this number. But ultimately, I think I'll make a case for laying the points with Tennessee. This is a Detroit team that appears poised to just play out the stretch. They emptied the tank last week and were pretty competitive from start to finish against the Green Bay Packers, ultimately making the smart decision late to get some of their backers to the window as 7.5 to 8-point underdogs kicking the field goal rather than trying to score a touchdown. Pete mentioned the injuries to Matthew Stafford. Frank Ragnow with a fractured throat. Not quite sure how that happens. Wasn't a medical student by any stretch. And if he's out along right up the middle, you worry about Chase Daniel, even against the team in the Titans that doesn't apply much pressure. This Lions offense without Kenny Golladay, that's a cog that you'd love to have back in the fold, knowing the Tennessee secondary is a major question mark. But Derrick Henry early and often, Ryan Tannehill works off of play action, and I think the Titans win this game by 2 touchdowns.
Tennessee holds the tiebreaker over Indianapolis based on best win percentage in division games, both sitting at 9-4 overall. Colts host the Texans. Indy's a 7-point home favorite. The total's 51. The last 13 regular season meetings between the Colts and Texans have all been decided by single digits, the longest streak among divisional opponents since the merger. Pete, based on that, are you taking the points and the Texans?
Yeah, I am, and I think they're going to hang around in this one a little bit. And the reason I think that is because when you look at this game, the Colts are good on defense, but the Texans can score And then you look at the Colts. They're one of those teams, Rivers got it going last week. And when he can get it going, I think they're a much different team. We know they want to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. You know they want to get the ball in the Nyheim Hines' hands in the passing game. T.Y. Hilton has come alive, which they needed to happen. But I think the Texans will come up here, even though it's consecutive road games. And that's always tough. It's a division game. You said it. They play a lot of close games. So my lean is to the Texans.
Under for me. Quick turnaround for these two familiar foes from a game that the Colts were lucky to hang on and win down in Houston a few weeks ago, 26-20. It was a game that started out like a house on fire, 24-20 at the break. Anyone who had an over ticket thought they'd have a rocking chair chance to get to the window. And then you get a 2-0 second half. And the one trademark we've seen from this Colts team, regardless of opponent, is that whatever Matt Eberflus does at halftime, the adjustment seems to work. The defense starts out slowly early on, but really click on all cylinders in the third and fourth quarter. This is a Houston team that I still don't think will be at full strength as far as their offensive weapons are concerned. Deshaun Watson a little bit nicked up. And this has all the makings of a Jonathan Taylor game who's really burst onto the scene in recent weeks. I can understand where Pete's coming from. I think the dog could be live, but I just like the game under the total a little bit better.
Todd, Pete, thanks. And how about this? The Colts, only team this season to have been favored in every game. They're favored again this week. They do play at Pittsburgh next week, so probably won't be favored in that game, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, so split on Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Both like the Patriots here, getting 2 points on the road at Miami. Buffalo and the over, both locked into Tennessee. Pete likes Houston. Todd likes the under between the Texans and Colts on Sunday. Coming up, the treasure trove of NFL picks continue. Big Ben and the Steelers visit the Bengals on Monday night with a chance to clinch the AFC North. How should you wager on this game? Our experts deliver their winning